You think your incompetent coworker is still here because your manager is blind or biased or simply doesn't care enough to act. You filed the complaint. You documented the pattern. Nothing moved. Corporate math disagrees. There are 3 calculations that protect every underperformer in every company. And the third one is the reason most people never see it coming until the restructuring list is already final. This is not a fairness argument. This is not a complaint. This is how institutions optimize for cost, not excellence. Once you understand the math, you stop being its most predictable casualty. Nobody in your company is protecting your coworker because they believe in them. Your manager is not running a loyalty calculation. They are not running a morale calculation. They are running a workload calculation. And in that calculation, the underperformer's continued presence costs less than their removal. What feels like favoritism from your position is pure cost management from your manager's position. The two views are so different that you can share the same office for years and never realize you are looking at the same decision through completely opposite lenses. Calculation 1. Firing someone is not a decision, it is a project. When a manager decides to move someone out, the process alone takes 4 to 6 months. Formal written warnings, a performance improvement plan with mandatory check-ins, HR coordination, legal sign-off before any final conversation. Every step is a meeting your manager owns, a document they write, a legal risk that sits on their desk, not the company's. Then comes backfill, posting, interviews, onboarding. Months more before the replacement knows enough to stop asking questions. Your manager has already paid the cost of keeping your coworker. That cost is sunk. It is invisible now, absorbed into the baseline of how the team operates. The cost of removing them is immediate, concentrated, and falls entirely on this quarter. This is why your complaint disappears into HR without a trace. Not because HR didn't read it, not because your manager is unaware of what you see, because the math on their end has not changed. Filing the complaint costs you nothing. Acting on it costs them everything this quarter. Kevin is a senior analyst. He has documented Marcus's missed deliverables for 18 months, 2 formal escalations, both acknowledged, neither actioned. Kevin assumes his manager doesn't care. His manager is 2 weeks from a board review, carrying a team of 6 and managing an open headcount that has been vacant for 90 days. Removing Marcus this quarter costs him everything. Keeping Marcus costs him nothing he hasn't already budgeted. The workload calculation is not personal. It runs in the background of every performance conversation, at every level, in every company. And it almost always reaches the same conclusion. The cost of action exceeds the cost of patience. Calculation 2. The longer an underperformer stays, the lower the expectation bar drops, and the higher yours rises. This is calibration, not a written policy, a behavioral pattern, and it is the mechanism that makes the disparity you experience feel genuinely insane from the inside. Marcus misses a deadline. Your manager adjusts the next project timeline to absorb the delay they now know is coming. They do not document the adjustment. They do not flag it. They compensate quietly. By quarter 3, the buffer is built into every project plan. The dysfunction is no longer visible because it has been successfully absorbed and managed around. Meanwhile, you have delivered clean work for 11 consecutive quarters. You have trained the system to expect competence. That expectation is your bar now, and it rises every time you clear it. In quarter 12, a vendor delay pushes your delivery 4 days late. Your manager flags it, not because 4 days is catastrophic. Marcus routinely runs 10 to 15 days over, but because you violated the expectation you created. Confirmations of expectation generate no reaction. Violations trigger a review. Kevin's first mistake in 11 quarters cost him the same written review that Marcus's 12th consecutive failure never triggered. That review goes into Kevin's file. It shapes how the next promotion conversation opens. Kevin set a higher bar. The higher bar became the ceiling. This is why the underperformer can repeat the same failure month after month while you get called out for a single deviation. The standard is not absolute. It is calibrated, individually, over time, by every interaction that preceded the current one. And the calibration gap between you and the underperformer widens with every quarter you both stay. Calculation 3. This is the one that ends careers before people realize what happened. When restructuring comes, companies do not cut the lowest performers first. They cut the people who are cheapest to remove. Those are 2 very different lists. And if you have spent your career being excellent in the wrong way, you may be on the wrong one. Think about what makes someone expensive to remove. Marcus has been at the company for 6 years. He has never documented his processes. He never cross-trained anyone on his accounts. He holds the institutional knowledge for 3 legacy client relationships, not because he planned it strategically, but because he never saw any reason to write it down. Removing him means months of knowledge recovery at minimum. Client relationship risk during the transition, possible process failures in systems that have no written backup. The restructuring committee has to model the cost of extracting Marcus before they can approve the cut. That cost is visible, concrete, and significant. It goes into a slide deck. It gets debated. It delays the decision by 2 weeks while the team figures out who can absorb the vendor relationships and whether the client will notice the transition. Nobody debates Kevin's removal. Nobody builds a slide deck about it. The answer is obvious in under 5 minutes. That is not a compliment. Kevin has been there for 4 years. He documented everything, cross-trained his teammates, built clean handoff processes because he believed that was what a professional does. He made himself replaceable. When the committee models the removal cost for each person, the answers are not comparable. Kevin is gone by next quarter. Clean documentation absorbed by the team. Marcus costs 4 to 6 months of knowledge recovery, client account risk, and potential process failure. Kevin is on the second list. Marcus survives. Kevin did everything right. He followed every piece of advice anyone had ever given him about being a high performer, and the system took him up on his offer. Understanding this does not make you cynical. It makes you literate. The system has been running these calculations since before you joined. Now that you know all 3, here is the single shift that changes your position in every one of them. Stop being free. Free is what you are when you absorb the underperformer's work without flagging it. Free is what you are when you make yourself so easy to remove that the committee approves the decision in 5 minutes. The 3 calculations protect Marcus because extracting him is expensive. You can apply the same logic to yourself, not by performing worse, but by controlling what you make visible, what you document, and when. Stop absorbing the underperformer's work. Every time you complete Marcus's portion to keep the project moving, you remove the visible cost of the current configuration from the output. Management sees a functioning team. The system has no pressure to change because the system appears to work. You are subsidizing the dysfunction with your own competence. The institution has no reason to fix a problem it cannot see. This is not advice to let the project fail. It is advice to stop being the buffer that makes the dysfunction free. If the work cannot be done without you covering for someone else, that cost needs to become visible before the next budget review, not after. Stop making the problem invisible. Second, document the structural cost, not the individual failure. This is not a conversation with HR. HR serves the institution, not you. This is a paper trail, dispassionate, specific, consistent, that makes the real cost of the configuration visible to anyone who reviews it. When Marcus's incomplete vendor analysis delays your project by 6 days, you do not say, Marcus didn't deliver. You write, the Q3 deliverable was delayed 6 business days due to incomplete input on the vendor segment. Revised timeline attached. You log it in the project system. You include it in your weekly status update. You document the structural impact without naming a villain. You are not building a case against Marcus. You are building a record that makes the cost of the current configuration impossible to ignore, including by whoever leads the next restructuring. Third, stop volunteering your replaceability. This is not about creating artificial bottlenecks. It is about sequencing. You do not cross-train your replacement before you have secured your own position. You do not document the institutional workarounds only you know how to navigate until you have extracted something in return for that knowledge. Kevin documented everything because he believed transparency was professional. He was right about the transparency. He was wrong about the timing. The same documentation that made him a great teammate in year 3 made him a low-friction exit in year 4. The sequencing matters. What you share, when you share it, and what you have secured before you share it. These are not ethical questions. They are survival questions. The institution is already running them. You should be too. Your institutional knowledge is not a professional courtesy. It is leverage, and leverage only works if you hold it long enough to use it. The system that protects the underperformer is not broken. It is running exactly as designed. It optimizes for management convenience, not organizational excellence. It protects the people who are expensive to remove and cuts the people who are easy to release. You were told that doing excellent work was the strategy. It is not a complete strategy. Excellent work without controlling your visibility, your replaceability, and your institutional footprint is the fastest way to become the most dispensable, competent person on your team. The underperformer is not untouchable because they are valued. They are untouchable because the system calculated that you solving their problem for free is cheaper than management solving it officially. That calculation runs silently, every quarter, in every company. The moment you stop being the free variable in someone else's workload calculation, the math changes. You now know why the underperformer survives every restructuring. But the trap runs deeper than that. Because being the most competent person on the team is not enough if you are also the most replaceable one. There is a second mechanism that turns your own excellence into a ceiling. Most high performers only discover it after the layoff. The video on screen right now breaks it down. Watch it. The part about indispensability will change how you show up starting Monday.